Yo, what is up guys, it's Ghost here, welcome back to another video. Today we've got a lot to go over. DICE has basically confirmed that the Battlefield 6 maps, the remaining ones that we haven't seen yet, are going to be much larger, and they will also cater to a wider variety of playstyles. I know a lot of people had problems with the maps in the beta. It was too much action, too much, spawn, die, repeat. People were even saying stuff like, oh, this is like playing too much like Call of Duty, which I definitely disagree with, but nonetheless, we'll go over that. The skill-based matchmaking, I guess, myth has kind of been debunked by DICE as well here. A lot of people thought maybe skill-based matchmaking exists in the game. It feels a little bit that way. We'll go over all of that. And then also, they've confirmed that Levolution will not be coming back for Battlefield 6. As always, if you guys enjoy the content on the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Plenty more to come on Battlefield 6 going into the future. And as always, thank you guys so much for the support. So I think it's fair to say that the community's opinion was somewhat split on the maps that were available in the beta. And I can kind of understand why. They were extremely action-packed. And if you're that kind of player where you love having your head on a swivel, doing a 180 and shooting somebody who's coming up behind you, then that's probably a map that you're going to enjoy, right? But I'd also understand for those of you out there who maybe want a little bit more of a relaxing experience, maybe even a jog from flag to flag without being flanked by somebody, it seems that DICE are going to be catering to you guys as well. So this is coming from an article on Video Games Chronicle by Jordan Midler, and they sat down for a bit of a chat with Battlefield 6's design director Shashank Uchil and Criterion's Fasahat Salim to discuss the philosophy behind the new game's maps. And here are some of the interesting things they had to say. So they said, we want to make a map that suits every type of player, Uchil told us. They could be infantry players, so we want to make sure we have good infantry maps. Maybe a player who likes tanks. Vehicles, okay, let's make a map that's good for infantry and tanks. You know what, I like helicopters, let's make a map for that. And then the jets, which I'm really bad at, but there are players who are really good at jets. I don't know how they do it, but they are, so let's make a map that caters to them as well. Due to the power afforded by modern hardware, massive maps have become the norm in the shooter genre. Thanks to the likes of Fortnite and Warzone, players have come to expect a certain level of scale. However, for Battlefield 6, the team isn't interested in scale for the sake of it. Scale is not everything, right? Says Uchil. Well, just because you have X kilometers doesn't mean it's going to be a good map, because then if you have a really big map, you're going to fill it up with stuff. Then it becomes more of an open world, and then you start compromising on a bunch of stuff. So it certainly sounds like most of the maps we have yet to play are maybe going to be some of the larger ones that I think will cater to that other audience who perhaps didn't really find their footing in the 3 maps we got to try out in the beta. And David Serland also confirms this over on X, replying somebody here saying that the maps are way too small, and he says, speed is a factor of map size. We pick these maps to make sure we hit the full octane version of Battlefield on the head and made everyone see that we can handle that too. Large maps exist and the tempo scales accordingly. You'll be able to see soon enough. So it surely sounds like the 3 maps we've seen are some of the, I would say, smaller to more mid-sized maps, and the ones that are remaining are going to be a bit bigger. So there's going to be 9 maps at launch, and if we take a look through the list here, so first of all, we've got Siege of Cairo. We know what that is, we've played that. We've played Iberian Offensive, and we've played Liberation Peak, that one being the largest of the 3. The 4th map we're going to get to play this weekend, starting on the 14th, is Empire State, and that one is going to be infantry only. It's going to be set in Brooklyn, New York, which I'm super excited for, but I think it's fair to assume it's going to be smaller than the previous 3 that we've already tried. So what are the other 5 maps that are coming to the game that we're not going to have the opportunity to try? Well, first of all, of course, we've got Operation Firestorm, and on this one it says fight for control of a burning oil field with infantry, tanks, helicopters, and jets. So this is going to be like a proper all-out warfare map for those of you out there who want that. I know I love this kind of map. You guys know me. I like my vehicles. So I'm assuming it's at least got to be as big as Liberation Peak, hopefully even larger. Then we've got Saints Quarters. Now this is another close quarters combat map designed for fast-paced infantry-only fights. So this is the second Gibraltar map, which is going to go along with the Iberian Offensive there. Again, infantry only, so this tells me it sort of looks like quite similar, honestly, from the concept art here to the Iberian Offensive, with a lot of small corridors and alleyways and doorways and windows and whatnot, and it is going to be infantry only, but I'm kind of interested to see how that one plays out. Then we've got New Sobek City, and on this one it says brave the heat as infantry, advance the front line in a tank, or take to the skies in an attack helicopter. So it sounds as if there's not going to be any jets on this map, but there will be attack helis. So again, I would probably guess this is medium to large. Then we've got Mirak Valley, and this one is the largest map at launch, a massive war-torn landscape filled with every type of vehicle. And the concept art really doesn't give too much away. There's an old abandoned house here, and it looks like trench warfare is going to be coming back. But outside of that, we really don't know anything about this map. And then we've got Manhattan Bridge, and this is of course the second of the two that's going to take place in Brooklyn, and it says engage in close quarters gunplay on the streets, take to the skies in an attack heli, or change the flow of combat with large-scale destruction. So, since it's going to have an attack helicopter on there, again, I would say this is at least going to be a medium map. I think this one will play a lot like Siege of Shanghai. So personally, I think it sounds like a pretty good spread. There are 2 infantry-only maps, then there's about 4 maps that have sort of mixed combat, so you've got the 2 we played in the beta, and then there's going to be 2 that have attack helicopters but no jets, and then there's going to be, was it 3, I think, that have like all-out warfare. So you're going to get all the vehicles on there, and you're going to be able to experience what I would sort of call true Battlefield, although I do enjoy the infantry experiences as well. So that's good. Now, on the topic of Levolution, they also touched on this in the article, and Uchil here says, you look at it and you have eyeballs on it, and here he's discussing the skyscraper collapse on Siege of Shanghai. You know, everybody stops and watches it. The issue with that is that it gets stale very fast, because if you do it once, it's cool, and if you do it over and over again, it's like, okay, the thing is falling down, what's the big deal? And that's why we lean more into the organic destruction he's referring to here. So it certainly sounds as though Levolution, while some of us thought, you know, the Brooklyn Bridge, maybe a Levolution event, the dam exploding that we saw in one of the trailers, maybe a Levolution event, it sounds like that's not going to be the case. I think the dam is simply a cinematic piece from the campaign, and the Brooklyn Bridge exploding, I think that may happen in the rounds in one of the 2 Brooklyn maps, but it's just going to be like a background set piece, not something, you know, necessarily triggered by players that's going to evolve the map. And then finally here, I just wanted to talk a little bit with you guys about skill-based matchmaking. I know that this is a worry for a lot of people, not just Battlefield players, but also those of you coming from Call of Duty. I know it's incredibly strong in that game. And on the topic of matchmaking, David Serlin once again has come in here to make a clarification, and he says, Open Beta used all matchmaking priorities that we expect for launch, and they are the same as they have been in previous titles. We prioritize ping and time to game ahead of most things. Skill is a factor, but it's far down the list, and our large modes need a spread of skill to work well. The sandbox needs many different types of skill to function well, and that's also why the matchmaker team balances to make the teams even as part of that process. So technically, yes, skill-based matchmaking does exist in the game because it's using skill, at least to some degree, to balance the matchmaking system, but I just want to make it clear that the way it works in Battlefield is that it's basically used more of a team balancer, right? To make sure you don't end up with all of these amazing cracked players on one team and all of the bad players on another team, because that's going to be a fairly miserable experience, I think, for both sides. Instead, you want to make sure that you've got an even spread amongst both of the teams. So that is certainly a relief to hear. You know, it's been in Battlefield games before, guys. I think a lot of people didn't realize it, and that's a big reason that people want a server browser. And believe me, I do want a server browser, but I think wanting it just to debunk the fact that skill-based matchmaking doesn't exist in the game, or that it's not used heavily in the game, is kind of like unnecessary. At least my experience in the beta was that I found I was coming up against a wide variety of different skill levels. Sometimes I would get absolutely shat on, and other times the enemy would, you know. So I feel like it was like fairly balanced in that regard, but as always, guys, leave me your thoughts on this below. How was your experience in the beta? Do you feel like there was any like strong skill-based matchmaking, like you had a really good game, and then after that you were put up against better players or something in that regard? Let me know how you found the maps in the beta as well. It's going to be really interesting to play the new one, I think, this coming Thursday on the 14th. As always, I will be streaming it, so if you guys haven't followed the Twitch channel, feel free to do that. I think there's going to be drops still going on there, but I will of course be streaming here on YouTube. As always, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to stay up to date with everything Battlefield, and I will see you all in the next video.